Hey everybody, it's Ken Komet, condovoice.com. Thanks for joining me today. Today I wanted to show you what we're doing here. We're doing a AC replacement. And I wanted to point out a few things that might be helpful to you in terms of the maintenance of your own air conditioner and replacing it and why. So I deal a lot with condominium associations on the beach, on the coast, and they get severe corrosion. A marine environment and the salt that's in the air that gets deposited through different means of the weather onto components like your AC condensing unit, which is usually on the roof. It could be on the side of your building or even on the ground. But the point is, within a certain distance from the coast, from that saltwater body, whether that's the Gulf, the Atlantic, the Pacific, or whatever body of ocean you got, or a bayway. I mean, the beaches have more wind typically than a bay would. Depends on how far in the bay is or how big the bay is, but the point is you can still get uplift, you can still get salt depositing on all of these building components, including the air conditioning, and that accelerates corrosion incredibly. I mean, we go about our day, we don't pay any attention to these things, and over the years they age, and what happens is you get half the life of an air conditioning system that's on the coast near a saltwater body that has to deal with marine environments and corrosion you need to do inland. So that's just a rule of thumb, but that's what I find, and I'm going to show you a couple of reasons why that is. And you have a lot more maintenance on these systems too. Why? Because of corrosion. It just ages things faster. Salt is the catalyst, and you've got to do your best to keep the salt out, and if you can't, manage it properly. So one of the things that I always recommend you do, and even if you look at the equipment manufacturing warranties, most of them require you to wash down these units once a year or more than that, depending on the harshness of the environment. So in order to wash these down, they say that, but it's like, really? How do I do that? Well, most of the time, the coils, which are the things that I worry the most about in terms of corrosion, are inside a unit. So I'm going to show you what those look like right now. In there are the coils. So, and all the other workings of the condensing unit. You can see where the freon lines come in and out. I hope you can see that from there. I'm going to take the camera off the tripod and zoom in here and show you. Okay, I'm going to zoom into the inner sanctum here, the inner workings of the AC. So you can see these are the freon lines, okay, as they come in. That's where the pipe would come in. And there is your piping. Now, every one of those pipes has a joint on it, whether it came from the manufacturer or you did it on site. And like there's where you tap into the system right there, for example. And these little knobs down there, they tap into the system. So every place where there's a chance for salt to come in and corrode this, it will. So what you also have here is your coils. So right here are the coils. This massive bunch of stuff is the coils. You see how dirty those are? Those are filthy. Those coils have never been cleaned. This unit is 20 years old. You see, I'll zoom in right there. I don't know if you can see that. All right, I just want to try to find, there's a little bit in there. Okay, you see all that dirt in there? Oh my goodness, it's just full of dust and dirt and everything you can think of. So these coils lose their efficiency. You see all these pipes right here? Oh my goodness, there's so many opportunities for leaks. What happens is, if you don't wash these coils down, they lose their efficiency tremendously and they corrode. So two things, you can save a ton of, well, not about a ton of money, but you can save money on your electric bill and you can extend the life of the unit. Both are great things. Both require maintenance and you just have to wash them down. You could do them with a garden hose, with a hose end sprayer on, because you don't want to apply too much pressure. You just want to wash the salt off. That's it. You're really not trying to get these coils clean. Don't scrub them. Don't do anything like that. Don't touch them, all right, with a human hand or a tool. The only thing you want to apply is water. Whatever comes off with water comes off with water. It might make a little bit of a mess on a rooftop, and you'll have to deal with that with however roof conditions you have. But still, it's worth it. And while we're in here, I'll just show you too. This is your controller. That's your start. That's your starter right there, and these are your contacts. So that's what you have. So if you're in a condo or HOA, let's say you got 30 of these things sitting up on a roof of a high-rise or in a mid-rise or whatever. You know, if you have a maintenance man and it's a part of his job duties for the association, is getting paid as an employee of the association or the management company, whatever, if a part of his annual duties is to go around and spray these down and keep the salt out of it, I would do it 4 times a year, frankly, okay? And that's just going to extend the life of the unit like way out there. I guess you have to put it on his job duty, and you have to basically show him how to do it. Plus, there's a liability issue. So let's say the association is paying this person to go out and spray down or hose down, okay, this AC units are usually part of the unit. By definition of a unit, usually air conditioning, even though it's outside the unit, even though it's a condensing unit outside the unit versus an air handler or parts of that AC system that are within the common element walls or inside the unit, usually a condensing unit still belongs to the owner. So you've got an association paid employee doing maintenance on an individual owner's unit property. Okay, there's a liability question here. What if the maintenance man sprays it wrong or does something and something happens to the unit? Oh my goodness, you caused damage to my unit, or you caused it to. So there's a liability issue that every association is going to have to cover. Either maybe a disclaimer, an indemnification little agreement. Hey, we'll spray down your unit so you don't have to, but you can't hold us responsible. That's what the association and the boards and the manager should say. And if I'm an owner, I'm saying that's fine, I'll take that risk. But you don't want to leave yourself open for a cheap shot by an owner that has a problem with a very old unit, because these units aren't all the same age, right? I mean, if a building is built and all the units go in at once, that doesn't mean they all fail at the same time. Some people do better maintenance than others. They get extended life. So what you wind up with in an older building are AC units that are all different ages. And you know, they'll replace that original equipment with something else. Maybe it isn't as good, maybe some are better than others. So you wind up with this staggered replacement cycle. So the point is, you don't really know. I mean, you could go up and do an assessment of each unit and then say, okay, we're going to spray these down for the owners. It's really a courtesy on behalf of the association. It isn't really a requirement, but the logistics of it say, first of all, you don't want everybody going up on the roof. You just want the maintenance guys going up on the roof. So that's kind of guarded territory. Because what if they do something to the roof, drop a tool, do something and cause a leak? You don't want that. You want only association employees on that roof. The condensing units are usually on the roof. That creates the problem. So I do recommend that the associations say, hey, we'll spray down these units for you to extend the life of them as a courtesy and being paid for by the association dues. And you're going to do them all, not just 1 or 2. You're going to do them all. That way the owners, let's say you got 30 owners, they're saying, well, that's okay. As a part of my fee, I'm going to pay for my unit to be maintained in terms of just washing it down. And then there's a technique to doing that. See the patina on these are usually copper. So see the patina on this copper? Now this one's been ripped off, so it's a little rough. But I'm going to show you what this looks like. So the other problem that we have, okay, is this. It's the insulation on this stuff. So you see the patina here, and if I pull this off, well, that patina continues because the weather, see what happens is the weather and the sweating and everything, it gets in past the insulation. See this insulation, see how there's nothing left of it. It's brittle, it's hard, it's cracked, and there's nothing here. So bottom line is the efficiency of the unit definitely is increased when you have proper covering over your Freon line, because this thing's going to sweat. And the other thing that happens is this, and this is a big deal actually, that so as these sweat, as all of these condensing units go in from the roof down into the building, they go into what's called a pitch pan. They all gather, they don't all, maybe a group of 4, 6, 8, whatever. They gather in groups and they send all of these pipes, okay, down what's called a pitch pan. So when the roof is designed, the original developer knows, hey, I've got to have a place for these to go. So they create a hole in the concrete or the wood or whatever it is, and they put a flashing in there, a special flashing designed just for that opening. And so these pipes go down. I'm going to try and put a few pictures in here to show you some examples, all right, of how this works. You've got to do the maintenance on your pitch pans. And you've got to do the maintenance on these. These insulations right here, again, this might even be something the association wants to pay for, because it has a potential for affecting the common element, which is the pitch pan. So the defining lines between who owns what is always something, as a manager, I have to consider, like, okay, who's going to pay for what and who's responsible for what. Even though the unit owner may be responsible for doing this, I don't want him up on the roof, because he's going to hire somebody that I don't know and I don't approve as a manager, nor the board would, and they're just going to show up on the roof one day and then leave. And if they do any damage, I'm never going to know that. There's another thing you can do. You can do a sign-in log. I mean, obviously buildings that have 24-hour security, the technician would have to go into the office there, or on-site management, and sign in so that they know during that time. And you could even take pictures before and after. You could get crazy with this thing. But monitoring roof level activity is difficult, and it's time consuming, and it's annoying. But so what I'm saying is, if you just have the association maintain them all so that nobody gets shorted here, then you can say it's coming out of the maintenance fee. And if you got to increase your maintenance fee, I don't know, $5 a month or $2 a month, whatever you got to do to cover this, it's worth it. So what happens is you send your maintenance guy up there, and this is something a maintenance man can do. You don't have to be a licensed technician, AC technician, to do this. You take off the old, this stuff comes off real easy, as you can see. I just pulled it off with my hand. And when it gets to be this stage, you replace it with the new. And the owner's going to love it, because now he's going to have a lower air conditioning bill. You do, actually. I can't quantify that right now, but I can qualify it in saying yes. Every AC guy watching this video is going to say, yep, you do. And it's going to extend the life of this copper, especially the joints in this copper. See, corrosion and salt, they're going for the weak link. They're going to go for the joints that are soldered in this copper. So if you've got any exposed above roof level soldering joints in this copper, that's what's going to fail first. Not pinholes in the pipe itself. It can happen, but most likely you're going to get wherever the weak part is, that's where it's going to go. And it's all pressurized Freon. So, once you get a tiny little leak, that Freon's going to leak right out. It's going to cause all kinds of trouble. So you don't want that. So this is, and you should buy UV protected insulation and just rewrap your Freon lines. It is worth it, because if you let the Freon lines go and this kind of thing happens, and the moisture from those lines goes down into the pitch pan where they all enter the top of the building, all right, that water's going down into that chase. They call them chase. They're squares that are designed to go all the way up and down. If you go into a condo unit, you'll see a closet where your AC closet is. Chances are you've got ACs. Let's say it's a multi-story building. You've got maybe 4 units on one level, or 6, or whatever, or even just 2. Where those AC closets back up to each other, there's going to be a chase, a hole in the building that goes all the way from the bottom floor all the way to the roof. And these pipes are going to go down through that chase. So what you're saying is that, what I'm saying is this, that if you don't replace your insulation, these are going to sweat, especially in Central Florida. And the water from these pipes are going to go down that pipe, defeat, the pitch. Now, let me explain something. In these pitch pans, the reason I call them pitch pans is they're just metal flashings, custom designed for that grouping of pipes going down. The only thing that's in that hole that keeps the weather out, including rain and all that other stuff, plus you're sweating, is pitch. It's tar pitch. It's thick black tar. So they fill it, and they fill it such that it's so full that there's adhesive qualities to it, and it sticks to the sides and it sticks to the pipes. Well, when that pitch gets old, it dries up, and the petroleum in the pitch dries up, and so it leaves that, creating a more brittle product. All right, so it cracks. Bottom line, it cracks. So down through the cracks and down through the separation between the copper and the pitch, that's where your water goes. And that could be happening for a long time. And all of a sudden, you get these complaints. Hey, I've got mold on my drywall, especially in my AC closet, or maybe next to it or something like that. And you're wondering, how in the heck? You're on the second floor of a 10-story building. How the heck? Go to the roof first. Check your pitch pans. Your pitch pans maintenance should be on your association's maintenance budget annually. You hire a roofer or an AC guy, mostly a roofer, to go up there once a year. And you know what? Most associations don't do this. They don't do it. Everybody's looking to lower them fees. Well, see if we can eliminate hiring the roofer to go out and put new pitch in our pitch pans and do the proper maintenance. We can save that money. You're not saving money by doing that. This is an essential maintenance function in a condo association, filling your pitch pans. It is, because you're allowing moisture. It's negligence if you don't. Because you're just willfully ignoring a problem and a potential problem, and the water's going to go down inside the building and cause all this damage. Oh, you know what happens? You call a water restoration company. They come out. They do their thing. They put the meters on the walls. They see they follow it up. They see the source of the problem. They go, oh, the association didn't fill the pitch pans. So it's not the unit owner's problem. It's the association. So hey. Okay, follow me now, follow me. The association might be considered liable for the damage that the water caused that got into it. Now that's a legal question, so I'm not an attorney. Because most attorneys will tell you it's about location and stuff like that. It's not necessarily the cause or the effect, it's about the location. If a roof leaks, the association repairs the roof. They say, whoops, I'm sorry, but the damages caused to the interior of the unit gets covered by the interior unit insurance. But what I'm saying is that may be true on the surface and first look, but down the road you might have a subrogation there. You might say, well, wait a minute, why is this insurance company paying all this money for all these units that are backed up to this chase that leaked? They're going to go, wait a minute, what happened here? The association, what they do, they let the pitch pan leak. A simple little thing that doesn't cost a lot of money. Okay, you got to do it. Okay guys, so I retreated to the comforts of my studio to do a little add-on here, a summary of my AC talk, and I want to add some very, very important tips here for you and things to look for in terms of managing your air conditioning units that might be up on a roof in your condo association or your HOA. So a couple of things. Living in a marine environment is just expensive. And there's no way around it. You've always got to be on the lookout for corrosion. And corrosion is going to try to get in and just beat the heck out of everything you have. And the salt, you just got to keep the salt out of your equipment and your building. But let me just say that rinsing your air conditioning condensation units, whether they belong to the association or an individual owner, you need to work out a plan. Come up with a standard operating procedure. Whenever I take over a building for the first time, property, I say, what are your standard operating procedures? What are the established norms of your community? What does the association do? What does the unit owners do? And especially when it comes to air conditioning, because most of the time the air conditioners are up on the roof. And you don't just want anybody going up on the roof anytime. First of all, it's a liability. Normally you're going to keep a roof hatch or a stairway or a door locked, and so you don't want that problem. You are going to, like if you have a self-managed association, or association that doesn't have an on-site office or on-site security or something like that, an AC tech is going to come out and service a unit, and the board and the management probably not going to know. So the individual owner is going to have a problem with their unit. They're going to say, hey, go out and take care of my unit. So whether they're a resident or an investor, whatever. So someone you don't know is going to get up on that roof and they're going to do stuff. And they can leave tools up there. They can drop a tool on your roof. See, every roof is different, and it's just a liability. So you want to control that as much as possible. So what you can do to control that from an association or a board point of view, it's just take over that responsibility of inspections and the rinsing of the units. So what I'm going to suggest is that you establish a policy that says, hey, as a part of the association budget, as a part of your maintenance fees, okay, out of that fee, you're going to get your unit hosed down twice a year. Okay, the maintenance guy is going to do it, or you can hire your own AC company to do it, meaning the association is going to pay for it. And that way, everyone's protected. Okay, the unit owners have to indemnify the association against any harm or damage that comes to a unit based on that maintenance. They just have to. And if you need it in writing, put it in writing. Have your attorney draw up an agreement, have everybody sign it. That's just the deal. And because you just don't want people at all hours going up on that on that roof. And the other thing that happens is just let's just play that out for a second as a manager. I can think of all kinds of scenarios of why I don't want that. But the number one thing is, let's say I'm a manager or you're a board member, and an AC goes out, and it's at nighttime, it's after hours, it's on the weekend, and they have to come and get a key from you in order to access the roof. Okay, that's going to take your time, your energy, your effort, okay, to be inconvenienced in the off hours, and that's just something to be avoided. You do not want to do that. So if you come up with a plan that's going to take into account all those different scenarios, and it's going to be easy for everybody and safe, and it's also going to protect the surface of the roof. Let me just interject something here. When you have a roof and you have a warranty on that roof, the surface of that roof is important. And there's disclaimers and exclusions in your warranty that says if it's done by human error, okay, they're not going to pay for it. So you don't want, a human is going to be somebody that goes up there and services that unit even if the association didn't hire it. Okay, the roof membrane, whether that's a coating, a shingle, metal, whatever it is, it belongs to the association, not the unit owner. But the unit owner has to go across that area in order to service a unit that belongs to him, the condensing unit. So you just want to prepare for this thing. You want to give it some thought. At a board meeting, establish a policy, publish it to everybody. Let all the owners know, say, hey, here's what we're going to do. And vote on it as a community, so it's in the best interest of the community, not an individual homeowner. That's just the way it's got to be. That's what living in a condo is all about. So you want to adopt a policy that's going to allow for somebody to rinse these units, because you've got to keep the salt off them. The other thing that's going to happen is you're going to once a year you're going to get inspected by the insurance company that handles the master policy for the association, and a fire inspector for the city or county or who's ever in charge of your area. And they go up there on that roof and they see a pigtail or a breaker or a conduit or exposed wiring, or they see something they don't like that's a hazard in any way. They're going to red tag you, they're going to document it, and they're going to notify you and say, hey, you got to get that fixed right away. Well, okay, if you're a resident owner, and by the way, they're not going to tell the individual owners that are the violators in terms of maybe it's a particular unit that's wrong, something's wrong with it. They're going to tell the association, okay, now we got another complicated situation. What do we do? A manager and a board member are oftentimes put in an awkward situation, difficult, complicated. It's not their property. It's the liability was created by an owner or the owner's contractor by leaving something undone or whatever's going on up there, or didn't attend to the corrosion, which is actually a part of the AC unit. So the association has to step up and say, look, because the inspector doesn't care, okay, about your internal communications or whether you have this policy or whether you have a administrative setup that takes care of that scenario. They just want it fixed. And if you don't get it fixed, they're going to evacuate the building. I mean, that could be the end game there. But the point is, that's the power they have. And you want to avoid that conflict. So preventative maintenance, doing annual or semi-annual inspections on the air conditioning units, on the roof, and the roof in general, the condition of the roof. You know, did somebody leave some junk up there to rust and corrode and eat into the surface of that roof? You know, all that kind of stuff. You've got to go up there and you want to protect the access to that roof. You want to keep as few people going on that roof as possible, and you want the people that are supposed to be up there, the ones that are insured for it, that are licensed for it or not, or an employee of the association or a board member. You got to keep it tight. And when you do, everybody wins. So I want to just encourage you that I'm just checking over my notes here real quick. Electrical. I'm going to tell you a little story, quickie. So one of the owners complained about their AC not working. It was a 3-story condo, and all the AC units, all the condensing units were on the roof, and it was a concrete roof. And so anyway, somebody had left one of the breaker panels open, the contactors. There's a breaker panel and there's also a contactor up there. So depending on how the system's designed, sometimes those contactors have doors. And so when in the wintertime, rats and rodents, they like heat and warmth. So a rat crawled up into one of these AC contact units boxes and got warm, and boy did they get warm. They got toasted right up against the contacts, and that's what caused the AC to stop working, because the circuits got crossed. So anyway, they had to remove the dead rat, the carcass of the rat, which was fried, and it almost did cause a fire. But the point is, the door had been left open to that contractor by a service tech hired by an owner. Association didn't know anything about it, and the owner got all upset thinking, okay, it's not their fault. Well, it turns out it was their fault anyway. So there's a lot of miscommunication and a lot of misunderstanding that can happen. Again, you want to inspect these things, and here's what you want to do. The association board, okay, manager. You might just want to hire an AC guy to do it once a year. I know you're saying, oh, that maybe that's too much money, especially with prices these days. But here's the thing. Somebody needs to document, take a picture of every single condensing box. Okay, it's a box and it's got related wires and freon lines going down into the building. You also need to inspect your pitch pans, which is where these pipes go down into a building. Okay, I think I've already explained in this video, so I won't go over again about a chase in the building. But wherever these lines, electrical conduit, freon lines, different things like that go down through this pitch pan. And when that pitch pan isn't maintained properly, you're going to get moisture in the building. So during this annual inspection by your maintenance man or your manager or board member, or probably all three, okay, walk around this thing, take pictures. And what you want to do is you want to identify, make sure you've got all the units identified. Take a Sharpie and write on the unit number to whichever condensing unit belongs to that air handler, which is inside the unit, somewhere inside the building. Just take a picture of it. And then take a Sharpie and you can document it, and you're going to have one for every unit. And keep that in the association file. Or just so you know. You're not going to necessarily know which pipes belong to each one, but at least you know the unit itself, so you can say, hey, if there's a problem, because you could go up on the unit to inspect something, and when all the rest of them are running and one isn't, that's how you kind of tell sometimes. All right, so that's what you want to do. These inspections are important. Keep the roof traffic where you want it, by the way, designated the areas on your roof, and only by the people that you want up there. Got to protect that roof surface. It's very important. It can be very costly. And so when the fire marshal goes up there and he inspects it, if he says something, he's going to say, this is the thing that I see. He may not be able to identify it to a unit, so you're going to have to know that information or do it after the fact anyway. And I'll tell you something. It's worth the time to figure out what unit belongs to, what condensing unit belongs to which particular unit way ahead of time. So when something like this happens and you document it, you got the unit number in the picture. You send the owner a picture, say, here's what's wrong, fix it. You got 30 days to get this fixed, okay? If the fire marshal is going to be that lenient, it might give you a week to fix. It might be a couple of days, depends on the severity of the deficiency. Okay, so let's see what else we got here. So we got fire inspectors, keep them happy. You got insurance inspectors, keep them happy. You don't want to lose your insurance in this market, especially in Florida. Oh my goodness. Don't get red tagged no matter what you do. Prevent that. Go up there if you see a problem. Don't mess with it. Just send the owner a picture and say, you got 30 days to fix this or 2 weeks to fix it. And then go up there and re-inspect it and make sure it gets done. And then you can go down the terrible rabbit hole or the whatever you want to call it, where if the owner says, no, I'm just not going to do it, then as a manager, or a board member, you're going to have to do it. You might just wind up having to do it and hiring a contractor to do it and back bill the owner. And then you got another complicated situation. These roof units can get complicated. You need to establish great policies so you don't have these unmanageable conflicts. And you don't want to do any of this in a crisis. You don't want to do it during a hurricane. You won't want to do it in the middle of August when it's so hot. You know, when something goes down, oh my gosh, we got to hurry up and do this because you got a renter in there or something, and they're all mad, and everybody's mad. You got all this kind of emotion going on. Take care of it way ahead of time. Do it in the middle of winter when you don't need an AC, or rarely. And make sure you've got all your identification. And besides, it's easier to go up on a roof in the winter because it's not as hot. And what else we got here? Whenever I take over a property, the first 6 months, you establish all these things. And if there haven't been, I never assume that the previous manager did their job correctly or the way I would do it. So I look over everything, okay, everything. I walk the grounds, I take pictures, I document everything, I take it back to my office, I look at it all, I scratch my head, I make all kinds of notes and say, okay, what's your solution for this? How are we going to handle this? If this happens, what am I supposed to do? And roof access, AC maintenance, AC ongoing stuff, even how to replace a condensing unit. What's the procedure for that? That's a whole nother video. But and the other thing is, you don't want to set yourself up for a cheap shot by an owner. Let's say you establish this policy, the maintenance man is rinsing off the units, you say, okay, that's okay, you know, everybody's okay with that method, and you know, it's going to help the situation. But you know, all of a sudden, an owner says, hey, my AC is not working, and my AC tech said it was because your guy sprayed down a unit. That's not going to happen. Okay, you can't let that happen. You have to get indemnified against that, and you can't invite a cheap shot from an owner. And if you think that's going to happen, then you're just going to have to go from a maintenance man to a licensed AC tech. Because a licensed AC tech is going to have the same weight as whatever tech they hire. And so that argument can just be stopped, okay? Doesn't have to exist, because sometimes people don't respect maintenance men and think, oh, they're going to do stuff wrong. That's a cheap shot, okay? Don't let that happen. Don't set yourself up for that. Let's see. Oh, I want to explain something. So one of the things I discovered recently is when you get a condensing unit replaced, especially again in the marine environment, they have a coating now that they can put on these coils and these exposed and the pipes within that unit. You know, everything outside the unit that you know, that before it goes down into the pitch pan. All of that can be coated with a coating. I think it's a clear coating, but it has to be done in the factory. Excuse me. It has to be done, you know, before the unit even arrives to the property. And it's an additional charge. I think the last time I looked into it was $300 to $500, but boy, was that worth it. I mean, if you replace an entire AC system these days, you're going to pay anywhere from 10 to 20 grand. And let's say it's a standard 2-bedroom, 1-bath condo on the beach. That's what it's going to cost you. If you get away from that, if you get under that, congrats to you. But I would suspect the quality of whatever you're putting in. But they can put a marine coating on it. So ask whoever you decide to replace your AC, ask them about this marine coating. It will extend, they'll love it because it helps their warranty a lot. And some of them should encourage it. I don't know anybody who would want to have it on there. And if you're willing to pay the additional money for it, then you're going to get a longer life out of your equipment. Everything's going to get a longer life out of it. It's a great idea. Let's see. Take care of your electrical. No exposed wires. You see any wires, there's, you know, you got a building that's 20 years old, 15 years old, 30 years old, 40 years old. I mean, forget about it. At least once during that time period, every single thing on that roof that's associated with your AC will need to be replaced. So limping along and trying to get away with stuff, especially with how the weather can get in, especially like if we get a hurricane, the moisture is going to get inside those connection boxes, breaker panels, different things. You don't want that to happen. You've got to make sure you have weather-type boxes up on that roof. And make sure all your conduit and stuff. Here's the other thing you can do. When this is actually a great tip. And I know this is a long video, but for somebody who's actually thinking about replacing their AC unit, or you're a board member and you're saying, you know what, I'm going to take the time to really listen to Ken and listen to all these tips. Here's a big one. So recently I had a project over on the beach and we had a leak in the building. We couldn't figure out where this thing was leaking. So we narrowed it down to the pitch pans for the AC units up on the roof. We looked at the flashing. The flashing was okay. What had happened was the pitch and the coating. A coating had been applied to the roof as a second roof. It really went over the first roof. And so that coating had started to break down. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to insert some pictures and videos here to show you how, you know, that piping and the actual electrical conduit, all right, had rusted out. It was steel and it had rusted out above the pitch level, above where, you know, where moisture was getting into that conduit. And that moisture was running down even some of the tiniest little holes. It'll get in there and it'll run all the way down into the unit. I mean, you could be on a 10-story condo, which this one was. And it was leaking into floor number 3, I think. And they're going, where is this water coming from? So the AC tech inside, you know, he went inside, he said, well, the unit isn't leaking. We've checked all the plumbing, so we went up on the roof. We're looking at this thing. We're looking for the tiny needle in the haystack. When we found it, it was in a conduit that had rusted through a small area, and that was getting down in through the, into the conduit. Conduit running all the way down to the unit and depositing itself there. So I'm telling you, proper maintenance on these pitch pans. And what we did in this particular case was we replaced all the insulation of all the Freon lines. We replaced any of the electrical conduit that looked like it was rusted out. Whatever sections were bad, we were able to cut and install new sections with the proper watertight fittings and different things, so that the conduit itself for the electrical and the Freon lines was complete, and the Freon lines were properly covered with good and solid insulation. So it reduced the sweating on the Freon, which also helps reduce the I don't know how to say this, but the pitch pan is not made to really withstand constant moisture. All right, it's just not. So we replaced all the pitch in the pitch pans. We put an additional coating on it, but we also, after we replaced the insulation on the Freon lines, we painted them white. Why? Because dark colors invite the heat and invite the UV rays into them. And so what happens is, and people don't think about this, up on a roof in Florida, especially in the hotter months of the year, man, those insulation, that foam just bakes. And anything that's exposed to the element like that has a carbon base to it. It has an oil base to it. And when those products that are installed during the manufacturing of those, you can't buy one. They don't make an insulator blanket or an insulation tube for Florida. They just make one. And they think it's going to apply to the same condo that would be up in, I don't know, New York. Well, the sun isn't as intense in New York as it is in Florida. So the life expectancy of foam insulation on Freon tubes in Florida is like, I don't know, pick a number, half of what it would be in New York or New Jersey or something like that at a higher latitude. And so it's just the sun isn't as hot for as long during the time of the year. So you get Florida, it's just the worst conditions for everything, including UV breakdown of products. So we painted them white, offers reflectivity from the sun, and it's going to prolong the life of that insulation a long way. So as you can see, and I think I've intertwined some pictures here and maybe some videos of different things I've talked about to help illustrate it. But I just think you go the extra mile with preventative maintenance, and you do the inspections often enough. Don't let Mother Nature beat you at your own game. Get up there and just take a look at it. Watch what's going on. Be aware. You know, it's a great thing when you can stay ahead of these maintenance problems. It's going to extend the life of your equipment. It's going to protect the property. It's going to keep the moisture out. Okay, and it's going to make everybody happier. It's going to make you're just doing a better job for your community. So these are the things I wanted to bring up. I know it's a long video, apologize for that, but it just takes experience and it takes resources to understand, hey, can I do this? Well, yeah, you can do this. And you know what? It's going to be a great benefit. And you know what? You're going to get an applause. You are. Because the people are going to appreciate the diligence and the detail that you put toward your job. Whether you're a manager or you're a board member, the care for your community, the community love that you show is going to, by the dedication you are and the detail that you do and the time that you take to do this research, even listen to my long video, okay, you're going to pick up a bunch of points and say, you know what? I hope you're making notes. You take 10 notes out of this whole video and say, you know what? We're going to check all this. Go visit your maintenance man. Okay, go talk to your manager. Say, look, are we doing this? Because if we're not, we probably should. Decide for yourself if you should attend to any of this stuff or add it to your standard operating procedures, because only you know that, because you've got a unique building. Everything's different for every condo ever built on the face of the planet. They're all different. So you know what's right for you, and I just wanted to bring this up and show you from my experience, these are helpful tips to help you have a better community. So thanks for watching, and come on down to condovoice.com. We'd love to have you down there. You all have a great day.